Are you looking for ideas on how to add subtle detail to clean and simple projects? Then keep watching. Hello there, Michelle Short here with Terrific Tags with Michelle. Today I have a clean and simple tag to share with you using the new Builder Garden Rosa Gallica. So let's get started. This is the new beautiful Builder Garden Rosa Gallica. It's so pretty. There is the stamp set, there are coordinating stencils to colour in the image, and then you also receive a mini ink blending brush. There is also the optional add-on of a die set, which is what I'm using today as well. So you get the die for the two main images and then also the two larger sentiments as well. So I'm starting off by stamping the smaller of the two images from the Rosa Gallica stamp set onto some Classic Crest 110 solar white cardstock. I'm using the Mini Misty here so that I can get a really nice impression on the image, and I'm going to ink up the image using permanent black ink. This is a great ink that can be used with lots of different colouring mediums, and it works particularly well for me with ink blending with stencils. So I'm just inking up that image really well with the ink, and then I can press down onto that cardstock. I am going to stamp it twice so that I get a really nice dark impression on those lines. So again, just inking that up really well and pressing that down again. And you could do so many different things with this floral image, but I am going to use the stencils to colour it in. So this is the guide that comes with the stamp set, and it shows you which stencils you need for which images. So this image here just uses 2 stencils. So I'm starting off by taking the first stencil and I'm going to colour it in the large flower. So I'm just lining that stencil up, taking some satin masking tape and holding that stencil down. I have adhered my panel down onto a scrap piece of paper. That is so that I can kind of add the extra ink from my ink blending tools onto that scrap piece of paper. So I'm using the Lapis Lazuli inks for the flower. These inks are just absolutely beautiful, and although roses don't come in blue, I absolutely love blue roses, so I couldn't resist doing blues for this flower. I'm starting off with the lightest shade first, and I'm focusing most of the colour on the inside of the flower. Now these stencils give loads and loads of detail. You can use all of the different layers. You could use some and not others, or you could actually just do it as is, and I think that looks really pretty. But I am going to use all of the layers because I want to add that interest. Because I'm creating such a clean and simple tag, I really want some interest on the images. So I used the next darkest colour again just to add that more towards the inside of the flower. Now really you're not really going to see that because of the different layers that I'm adding on top, but I did just like to do that. So I'm then kind of shifting the stencil over and using the second layer, and again I'm going to hold that down with the satin masking tape, making sure that I'm kind of covering the pieces that are going to be exposed. That's because sometimes I do accidentally go over the edges of the stencil, and although I'm going to cut this image out with the dies, I don't want to accidentally get blue on the leaves or something like that. So now I'm going in with the third lightest, or the second darkest, however you want to say it, and this time I'm using a mini ink blending brush. This is the one that comes with the set, and it just adds more of a concentration of colour, and I wanted this layer to be quite a lot darker. So just removing those pieces of masking tape, and then I can lift off that stencil. Now ordinarily with these stencils I would clean them as I go, because you do get ink on the back, and as you kind of press it down it does sometimes smear some of the ink onto your panel. But I'm just taking a piece of scrap paper and I'm kind of placing it underneath where, you know, like the part of the stencil that's already got the ink on it. That is literally just saving me from having to clean the stencil. So now I'm going in with the last layer on this flower, and I'm using the darkest shade in the Lapis Lazuli collection. And again, I'm using the mini ink blending brush here and just really darkening up that layer. And this layer honestly is my favorite. I wasn't sure if I would love that much detail on the flower, but it just turned out so pretty. For the kind of little tiny flowers on the side, you're not actually going to be able to see that much on the finished tag, but I used the Aqualicious from the Sweet Dreams collection. And then for the leaves, I'm using the Green Valley Crisp Dye ink set, and I'm using the 3 lightest shades. So this is the lightest shade here. I've gone back to this small ink blending tool. This is so that I can just kind of do like a really sweep of subtle colour over the leaves. I did want the edges to be a little bit lighter, but again, I am going to go in with the other layers of the stencil. So this doesn't really matter too much. You could just do like a plain layer of colour and it would still look really pretty, but I do go in with the second lightest just to add a little bit of extra colour on the inside of those leaves. I've then placed the other stencil on top. This is more of the detailed layer, and then I'm going in with the same colour that I used for the kind of added extra colour, and then I do go in with what is my darkest colour, but it is the second darkest in the Green Valley inks. And again, I'm using the mini ink blending tool for this so that I can get a really nice dark saturation of colour, and you can see how that colour goes on. It's really rich in colour and it's so beautiful how it blends with the other shades. So I can just finish that off there. And then on the first stencil, there is the middle of the flower for the stamens. And I didn't use that when I was doing the other layers because I thought that I actually did need to clean the stencil at that point. So I went ahead and cleaned the stencil. And for these little stamens, I'm using the Sunray colour from the Golden Sunset collection. And I'm actually just holding that in place with my fingers because this layer is so tiny that I can manage to do that. So just going in with a few layers just to kind of colour those in as best as possible. And then I'm taking the coordinating die, I'm placing that over the image, holding it down with some low tack tape, and then I can run that through my die cutting machine. And I really love how all of that detail looks on that flower. I then want to add some subtle detail onto the background of the tag. So I'm taking the Dotted Swirls Debossing cover plate, and this just cuts tiny little piercing detail onto whatever you add it to, in this case a white panel of cardstock. I'm then taking one of the larger Terrific Tags dies and I'm placing that over the top, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine to cut out the tag. Now you're not going to be able to actually see the pattern on that debossing cover plate, but you are going to be able to just add, like, kind of see the dots itself, and I just think they, like I said, add kind of a subtle detail onto the tag, and I think it just adds something extra. So I've added some instant dimension foam tape onto the back of the image. I'm just adding that foam tape into the center because I know that I'm going to cut the outside edges off. So I'm placing that down onto my tag, and I'm just using some tweezers there just to help me out with the placement. And I didn't add an extra piece of foam tape on the top of that flower there, so I did just need to add that underneath. And then it pained me to do so, but I'm cutting off the excess from the sides. I really love having things overhanging tags, but in this instance I thought it was better to cut them off. I've then die cut another of the Terrific Tags dies from the Classic Crest £110 Solar White cardstock, and I'm adding some tape runner onto the back of that so that I can sandwich the two tags together. That's to give it some stability to the tag, but also make it so that it looks nice on the back so that I can write a personal message if I want to. So I'm just lining those both up as best as possible, and then once I'm happy I can really press down, make sure that they're adhered together really nicely. I've then taken a sentiment, and off camera I did heat emboss that. That is from the same Builder Garden Rosa Gallica stamp set, and I'm adding some foam tape onto the back, and I'm doing one layer throughout the whole of the back of the sentiment, but I'm doubling up the layer on the left hand side because that's going to overlap where the tag is, and I want it to be all one level. So I'm just struggling a little bit here trying to get the backing off of that foam tape. It does come off really easily, but you know, when you're on camera, these things happen. So I'm just using the tweezers again just to help me place that down onto the tag. And then I can press that down once I'm happy with the placement. And then to add my last detail onto the tag, I'm taking some Cool Summer Nights enamel dots. I thought that this colour would work nicely with the aqua colours that I used on the flowers on the left hand side. You can barely see them, but I really love how the aqua, the blue and the green all works together really nicely. So just figuring out here where I want them to go. Sometimes it does take me a little while. So I'm just kind of pressing them down lightly to start with, just in case I want to move them. And then once I'm happy, I can really press those down, make sure that they're well stuck down. And that's the tag finished for today. Although really quite clean and simple, I love the added detail with the stenciling on the image. Also that lovely pierced detail in the background, and then the enamel dots just to finish it off. I'm going to bring in my card here as well so that you can see that I made for the release. And my inspiration for this tag came from that card. Although slightly different in appearance and colours, I did get my inspiration from that. Links to the products that I used will be listed in the description bar on YouTube and also over on the Altenew blog. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Hello crafters, Jen here. For more tips, techniques, tutorials, and to discover which paper crafting products are right for you, subscribe to Altenew's YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Thanks for watching.